1 Edward 1029, copy, threatening traffic.
Copy, moving route.
Edward 1029, if you could please respond to 2020 Mandell Street, Lakeview.
Copy. If you still have roll on, get the ATO information first.
Welcome to Shooting Straight with Brad and Casey. I'm Casey Clark, the Navajo County Sheriff, and to my left is our County Attorney, Brad Carlyon.
Hey, Casey.
How you doing today?
Doing great.
Great. We have today, on today's show, we have Sue Mandell. She's the National Director of WeTip, and Susan Augilar, the CEO and Vice President, Board of Directors for WeTip. Well, welcome back to Navajo County. We appreciate you being here today with us.
Thank you. We love being here.
We're glad to be here with you.
Well, you know, we're big supporters of WeTip here in Navajo County. We've had some great success with you folks, with your company and organization, and it's a great organization. You know, one of the things I did want to talk about this time is that I know that WeTip played a big part in the San Bernardino terrorist shootings here a few months back, and maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Well, sure. You know, WeTip is right in the backyard of where the terrorist activity was happening. And we were so glad to be in close proximity to all the law enforcement agencies that were first responders at the shooting site. What we found out very quickly is that the phone lines got jammed immediately, and that there were citizens, people in the communities that had information about the terrorists who had fled the scene. We wanted to get that information to our law enforcement agencies, but no one could get through. So,
what was that on, hard lines and cell?
Hard lines mostly, because people don't have the cell phones of the law enforcement officers that were involved. And so what happened is we started getting people calling into WeTip and wanting to give us the information, and then we were able to relay that to our individual contacts. We have their cell phones, their fax machines, things like that, where we could get through to them and let them know what was happening.
So there was, WeTip played a very big role in the capture of these folks.
What's really interesting is that most people think of us as just a crime reporting hotline. Mm-hmm. And in this situation, as soon as we heard about the terrorist shooting, we were able to get on the phone to all of our contacts. As Sue was saying, we have cell phone numbers. We were able to remind everybody to get out there. We had our social media going. We had a reach of 3 to 5 million people, reminding them to use the WeTip hotline. And that was something that was very advantageous, because we did get the tip about where the terrorist SUV was in Redlands, California.
Wow, that's big for that's big for the public, not just law enforcement. It's for the safety of everybody involved. Absolutely.
Well, it was. There was a lot more things planned. Those folks were.
So you talked about social media and stuff. How did you use your social media to help amplify your message locally, to give you the information, to let you guys be the filter for it?
Well, immediately upon hearing that there had been a shooting in San Bernardino, we got on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, and we started posting if anyone has information about this incident, or what's going on, or where these terrorists are going. You know, you can respond here on social media by letting us know what you're seeing and hearing. When we got on there and we posted 1-800-78-CRIME, it's totally anonymous, it's totally safe. We started getting tweets back, we started getting calls back. What ended up happening is Jack Traper from CNN News, he's the Washington correspondent, he picked up on the WeTip hotline number and started retweeting that, and in turn it ended up going out to millions of people. You know, it's one of those you know, super texts or super Twitters or
super delegate.
That's another thing.
Right.
So, and then on Facebook as well, we were able to say what was going on, keep people posted on what was happening, what we knew was happening, and then we were also alerting them, call WeTip if you have any information. If you can't get through to the police department or the sheriff's department, go ahead and call WeTip. We'll make sure that information gets to the proper agency.
So did you ever had your social media blow up in an event like that before?
Nope. we haven't.
That was the first.
And WeTip is, we're on Twitter at WeTip Hotline, and we're on Facebook at WeTip Anonymous Crime Hotline. So in addition to our WeTip website, which is at WeTip.com, so in all of those areas, you know, we have a lot of followers who they're really concerned about what's going on in the communities. They want things to be better, and they want things to be safer.
So has it made you reevaluate how you can use your social media when there's a big event in one of the communities that you serve?
Absolutely. It turns out that today everybody's on social media, and that's the best way to get the information out to them. So we've really started to learn to rely on the Twitter, the Facebook feeds, and making sure that we can hit the entire other part of the population that we wouldn't be hitting with the TV show or with the newspaper.
So I know that locally, our local law enforcement has been practicing on and off for a big event. It wasn't long ago, the Sheriff's Department and local police were at our Northland Pioneer College with an active shooter situation. If that were to happen in real life, how would we let WeTip know, and how would WeTip be able to focus its social media for the Show Low, Southern Navajo County area?
What you would do is you would just call us and let us know we're having a situation here. We would like to make sure you're included in receiving the calls. We know that you're going to, of course, put on the county law enforcement information, but we also want people who may not want to come forward and identify themselves. We want them to call WeTip, and then we immediately call you with the information that we get, and we'll call your personal cell phones, or we will fax into your offices. We know a lot of times that the hotlines or the phone lines in the offices are pretty jammed, but we get that information. If you put it on your social media site, then we share it on our social media site, and then we ask everybody on our social media site to share it with their people. It's this crazy viral thing that just happens.
Amplifies each other.
Exactly.
So do you have like a template that you would be giving us and saying, would you post this, Brad, on the county attorney and the county and the sheriff's department, Facebook and Twitter accounts, so we start linking people together?
Oh, absolutely. We can do that, and we can create something that, you know, fits with what your needs are, or fits with what the situation might be. You know, if you're having some active shooter situations, or like the situation down in Glendale, Arizona, you know, we had, you know, kids shooting each other and themselves. We've had a couple of kids were shot in the park, I think. Yep. You know, you have some shooting things that are going on. You certainly want the people in the community who may have had information about that, but they were afraid to come forward. We want them to know what they can do to keep their community safe. Somebody always knows.
It's so important to be proactive with this, because just like in San Bernardino, the neighbor came forward and said, you know, something was going on next door and I just wasn't sure about it, but I was afraid to say something because I wasn't sure. I was afraid of being politically incorrect. And so if we can make sure that these people, whether it's the community citizens, the kids in the schools, that they know that they can report something, we keep the WeTip name out there in the news and in the social media, that they can report anything, anytime. Nobody can ever know who they are. It gives them an opportunity to say, I'm not so sure about this, but I've heard something and maybe somebody should check into it.
So besides using your social media accounts to get information on a current event, are you also pushing out educational materials through your social media? Because I know you have drug tip hotlines. Are you pushing out information on drug abuse or the evils of drug abuse? Absolutely,
and there's so many trending drug situations that are going on. Of course, heroin is making a resurgence, but then when we had bath salts and we have methamphetamine, and then we have, you know, some of the weird designer drugs that these kids are getting into, we do put out informational blogs and things like that on the WeTip website, so that people can learn more about that stuff, about the trends in bullying. We've had an upsurge in domestic violence, sexual abuse. There are so many things that people just need to be aware of. And then again, too, the domestic terrorism. where people are, they see something happening, but they think it's not politically correct to say something, and so they're afraid to. Somebody's going to think I'm profiling them. But when they call WeTip, we just take it for what it is. This person's doing something that is suspicious or strange or acting strange, and we let you know about it.
You, meaning the law enforcement?
Yes, law enforcement.
So it does give people, they feel safer because they're not, I get it, as far as profiling and what have you. So.
There's also the kids in the school. They're doing so many dangerous type behaviors today. They're trying to get some type of thrill, oftentimes without using a chemical. And their friends know about it, and a lot of times they're worried about them, but they don't know what to do or what to say. And WeTip is another avenue where they can give that information and say, my friend is hurting herself, or my friend is hurting himself, and somebody can look into it before it escalates.
We've had a lot of situations where their kids are playing the choking game. They're really drinking to critical levels of alcohol poisoning. These kids are cutting themselves. They're getting into the prescription drugs, their grandparents or parents, and that seems to be something that's very recreational, but they have no idea what they're taking.
Right.
They're just taking anything. And then kids, they're smoking anything. If they can wrap it up and light it, they're smoking it. And so, some of these things, the kids that they hang with, they're like, this is not okay. This is really scary. And so then they call WeTip and let us know that there's some dangerous behaviors going on.
One of the things that I'm sitting there thinking of is we've been talking about some of the ODs we've had in the county, and a lot of that's due to so back east, I was at a training here a while back, and it showed some old 1970 footage of a police car going down through some of the boroughs there in New York. And they were on a loudspeaker telling people the heroin was bad. Now, of course, in today's world, we can go on social media and do that instead of having law enforcement on a PA going down the street. But there's been a real big trend with fentanyl being mixed in with the heroin is killing people all over the place. So that's another good way to get that out.
Absolutely. These kids will slap on a patch that they got from maybe a terminal grandparent's house. They'll slap on a fentanyl patch and not realize that it's going to be absorbed through their skin, and they overdose on that, go into convulsions and die, and having no idea the strength of the drug they just put on themselves. These things are so incredibly scary, but kids just think they're invincible, so they just do it.
And peer pressure is so great at that age. And social media is a great way to get that information out and say that this is what's happening, and you may think it's okay, but it really isn't, and it's truly dangerous. And you might have the one person that knows deep inside that we shouldn't be doing this, and be able to say something without being ostracized.
Right. Well, here a couple weeks ago, I got a nice letter from you folks, and you invited me to be on a board for WeTip.
It's our WeTip advisory board, and we have a lot of people. Sue is involved with that, obviously, being our CEO, but we need specialists around us that can help us in different areas of your specialty. What makes you a good leader is having people around you that know their stuff. And you know your stuff, Casey, and we want you to be around us.
I think I said this last week, so I'm going to blush. No. Anyway, well, I appreciate that. I think the first meeting will be sometime in April, and I look forward to serving on that board, and it's an honor, and hopefully we'll do well.
We look forward to having you. Having a law enforcement officer's expertise and just ideas, and you know how to deal with other law enforcement agencies, and you can really help us in doing a good job in other counties and meeting other sheriffs too.
So you have a conference coming up in April.
April 20th.
April 20th at the Mission Inn in Riverside, California. And it's, we invite law enforcement, city administrators, school officials, teachers.
We have an incredible line of speakers set up. You want to tell them who we have?
Well, one of our speakers, the keynote speaker, her name is Elisa Kaplan.
Yes.
And back a few years ago, Elisa was in high school and she was drugged with Rohypnol. And the boys that she called friends, 3 boys, raped her and beat her while she was unconscious already from the drugs. She didn't even know what had happened until somebody came forward, a Good Samaritan came forward with a videotape they had made of the assault. And they were able to arrest the 3 boys. Unfortunately, one of the boys was the son of a deputy sheriff, a high-powered deputy sheriff in California, and there was a huge smear campaign against the young woman. Well, she fought against that, and she is going to be our keynote speaker. She is a victim who has survived and has fought back, so she's going to be our keynote speaker. We're also going to have speakers on active shooters, domestic and foreign terrorism, human trafficking, and one of the biggest deals that we've been dealing with is workers' compensation fraud.
Right.
People are just defrauding the system any way they can. So those are just a few of our seminars that we're going to have at the conference.
And officers can be get post credits.
Yes.
When they come. Got to mention that.
Through Arizona, California, or wherever?
California.
California, okay. You know, if you'll give me that training, I can get that through Arizona, no problem too.
Oh, okay, we'll do
That'd be
that.
great.
We put it all together and we'll get that to you.
Well, and what dates are those?
April 20th.
At the Historic Mission Inn in Riverside, California. Beautiful location.
You know, I was there last year. I had the honor of, again, thank you for the award last year, but it's just a great place. So anyway, I look forward to seeing you there again.
And they can find out more information about the conference at your website?
Yes, at WeTip.com.
And I assume there's a cost to attend?
There is. The cost is, it's under $100, I know that.
Very reasonable then.
Includes the lunch. We have a silent auction. It's just a really great day to learn and network and participate.
It's a great day to great location to bring your family and spouse as well.
It is.
There's so much to see and so much to do.
So it's been about a year since you've been here. Has WeTip grown during that time, or how much have you grown since? I know you're a growing company, so
We have.
how much have you expanded since then?
Well, we're expanding to some tribal locations, which has been cool because we'll be going to the Choctaw Reservation in Mississippi. We are the official hotline for NASRO, the National Association of School Resource Officers, and so we're going to be speaking at their conference as well as going around and visiting with some of the SROs in different states to make sure they understand that WeTip is a big part of school safety.
You know, WeTip has taken over 1 million crime tips, but we've taken almost 1.5 million crime reports. And that's a lot of crimes that have been turned in that something has been able to be done about them.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It really is.
And it's a different number because when we get a tip, oftentimes we'll have somebody say, I have information about this guy who's dealing drugs, and then they name another crime where he is, committing some domestic violence, he's committing fraud, and we get several cases out of one tip many, many times.
And it turns out that the information we get is often extremely helpful. Our conviction rate is over a 2-to-1 rate from our arrests. So for every 2 arrests, we get a conviction, which is really a pretty good
That's
ratio.
high. Very, very high.
Yes.
What we found out this year, though, is we always ask at the end of the tip, if there is an arrest and conviction, would you be interested in a cash reward? Because we do pay our rewards out anonymously through post offices. But what we found this year is we've had a drop of about 400% when it came to paying out rewards. It seems that people have gotten more in touch with just getting their neighborhoods cleaned up, and they don't care so much about the reward.
It can be a big benefit.
It can, sure.
Especially if it's the drug dealer down the block and all the traffic and the
Sure.
other stuff that comes with that.
Oh,
Hey, when you-
ex-girlfriends.
You take your community back, absolutely, and you feel like you've done something as a neighbor in that area. You have some ownership to it.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
It really allows people to know that they can take action and be a part of the safety of their community and not feel so helpless and hopeless.
and be part of the solution. Absolutely.
Yes.
What are all the different phone numbers you have again for tips? I know you have multiple ones.
We do. We have 1-800-78-CRIME, which is probably the most commonly used. We also have 1-800-47-ARSON, 1-800-US-FRAUD. We have the 855 WeTip US. Some people don't want the word crime or fraud in their phone number at all. So we have WeTip US. We have 855 for the res, for our tribal members. And we have a couple separate small lines that are designated for corporate partners.
But you could call any one of those and you're going to take the information regardless if it's
Right.
about school or drugs or burglaries or...
Absolutely.
That's the beauty of WeTip. We don't have a lot of little WeTips all over the country. We have one big headquarters where all the tips come in on all those hotlines. And then from that headquarters, they're dispersed into many, many different law enforcement agencies, including police, sheriff, public social services, DEA or customs or immigration. We send to anybody who needs to get the information because we're non-jurisdictional. We really don't care whose jurisdiction it is in. We want to get them all the information that we can get them to solve the crime.
And because our callers talk to a live operator every time they call, depending on the line that the call comes in on, the operator knows what type of follow-up questions to ask. You know, the first thing is, this is the WeTip crime hotline, do not give your name or identify yourself. But if we're talking about an arson, they're going to have a different series of questions to get more information. Versus something that has to do with fraud, it would be a different series of questions. The 855-86 bully number is going to have a lot more to do with the bullying aspects of what's going on in school. So there's an advantage to that. It's the same operators, though, that answer the bank of phones.
Well, and I'm sure that when people call and they are talking to a human on the other end, it's much more reassuring to them than just leaving something on an answering machine or...
Oh, yes.
And plus, somebody's there to guide them and ask the right questions, follow-up questions.
Oh, yeah. We know that answering machines don't work very well. People get on an answering machine and they stutter and stammer,
Sounds like me on this show.
and they don't know what to say. The two boys were running from the school, and they would get the message, and it says, "Well, what two boys? What school? What city?"
Right.
Whereas when we talk to them at WeTip, we say, you know, what county is this in? What city is this in? What street is this on? You know, we get real information that can be used by law enforcement.
Well, I can tell you that's about it for today. We really appreciate you coming down and spending some enjoyable time here in Navajo County. And as my understanding, you spent the weekend here in Pine Top.
Yes.
And so we appreciate you spending some money here and some of our taxes.
We're here to help with the economy, too.
Anyway,
That's right.
Appreciate that.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll see you in April.
Thank you, and we'll see you then.
Thanks for joining us today on Sholo TV for Shooting Straight with Brad and Casey. Now stay tuned for our Most Wanted.
Today's Most Wanted is Christopher Lee Owens. Christopher is a 32-year-old Caucasian male who stands 6 feet tall, weighs 180 pounds, with brown hair and green eyes. The Navajo County Sheriff's Office is currently investigating an allegation of child abuse and child molestation. The suspect of the investigation has fled his residence and is residing in either the Pine Top Lakeside area or in the Heber area. The Sheriff's Office Criminal Investigations Unit is currently seeking the suspect to interview him. The Navajo County Sheriff's Office Civil Division is also seeking Christopher. Christopher has an extensive history of law enforcement, so if you see him, do not approach him. Vehicles that he is known to have is a 1977 Chevy pickup, a 1985 Chevy SBZ 2-door SW, and a 2008 Chrysler 4-door SW. If you know the location or have any information about Christopher Lee Owens, please contact your local police department or call the Sheriff's Office at 928-524-4450 or contact WeTip to remain anonymous.